Mr. Haight, the Trump administration has recently put a hold on an FAA rule to harmonize the United States with the ICAO lithium battery transport requirements. ICAO determined that the risk is such that there should be no commercial transport of lithium batteries on passenger aircraft whatsoever. And then secondly, they imposed requirements upon packaging and charge and other things for freight transport. And do you support the ICAO rules?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
The harmonization is key to us.
Right. So I'm hopeful that the Trump administration will withhold or will withdraw their delay in that rule. I mean, what they've said is, well, we know we'll have voluntary compliance. I'm always concerned with voluntary compliance because there's always some low-budget person out there who's saying, to heck with that, I'll take your stuff. So you think if we set this floor, we're going to be much better off because everybody has to follow the same rules?
That's correct.
Okay. And then to Mr. Tilden or Mr. Childs, I would assume you support the ICAO position that the commercial transport at this point in time is too hazardous and would not want to see that, again, someone someone is transporting commercially on passenger aircraft.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, hopefully we can get that straightened out with the administration. So, wow, okay. I had asked a question, Ms. Nelson, your testimony was great, and I mean, one thing that came to my mind was if we're contracting for pilots around the world, what standards would they have been trained under and what number of hours would they have? And then, of course, there's the additional problem of this, the Malaysian flight that we still haven't found. So I'm not anxious to be having Malaysian pilots in the near future. The staff found that ICAO says 200 hours of flight time or 150 if completed during training is the pilot standard. So when we start looking at this contract model, it's likely that your people are going to be flying overseas in, complicated large aircraft with someone who's got 201 hours of time. That's great. I do know in India, in fact, there were people who got certificated who had never, ever even flown a simulator, let alone a plane. It was a bit of a scandal, and they got their certificates pulled, but it did happen. So I just want to thank you for raising those issues, and I don't think we should be asking U.S. airlines to compete with countries that only require 200 hours and to meet the minimum ICAO standard. I would have a tremendous concern about that. Would you, Mr. Leoka, have a concern in terms of consumer protection of having people fly on planes with pilots with that little experience?
The international airline system, as it's running right now, is probably the safest that it's ever been in history. Mm-hmm. And if we keep doing what we're doing and we have basically no fatal crashes for a long time, I think that we're on the right track.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that was a little equivocal. I would say we still haven't found that Malaysian flight. So I have concerns about chasing cheapest labor around the world. I've spent a lot of time on cruise line issues and domestic maritime issues, and nobody wins in a race to the bottom, which is where we've taken things with particularly with flags of convenience. There was a great 60 Minutes piece about 15 years ago on flags of convenience and what it means for passengers, rape, murder, whatever. You go to the Liberian courts if you were on the high seas. Ship gets hijacked, call the Liberian Navy. I do not want to see something like that happening to the airline industry, and this model will take us in that direction. With that, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for the time and yield back.
Thank you, Mr. DeFazio.